So we're going live now. And I will throw this to the message board and tweet it out.
So I'll add the big picture stuff. I think we'll bring that up toward the end of the pod.
Okay.
This light is still coming in the morning. The big picture stuff, let's do it at the end.
That works.
When we look ahead, after we look ahead kind of to Syracuse, and we don't have to get deep into the Syracuse stuff, but
a reason
we'll just hit on it because you guys are going to do your podcast.
You hear that, Chris? We're going to do our podcast on Thursday, and people are going to love it.
Is that not a thing?
Yeah, no, it's a thing. It's Joshua. It's very tough to preview games for this team when the outcome has been not great. But
that should make the preview very easy.
We got some questions from some users too that you see.
Yeah, I'm confused on that. So
what do you
asked? So this isn't a mailbag, but you asked for questions on the message board.
You know, we're allowed to take some questions from our devoted subscribers in not a mailbag format sometimes.
All right. So you want to answer whether or not you believe in Mike Norvell?
Yeah, sure. I'll answer it.
80 seconds in. Here we go.
I mean, these are the questions you elicit. Okay. So we're going to talk about who's going to get fired. I'm going to ask you who you think is going to get fired at the end of the season.
I mean, you're allowed to sift through the questions and filter them a little bit.
I'm just reading them all. Do you think Norvell can turn this thing around? And what, Brendan, is the state of the full program of Florida State?
Oh, that's a good question. We're going to get deep into the weeds here. See, this is the thing that people want. Josh, I'm here to answer questions for the people. I don't know what you're here for.
Oh, this is a great one. Put a line on every remaining game this season.
That's a fun exercise.
This isn't
Bud's podcast. That's down the street.
That is a Bud podcast question. That is a Bud podcast question.
So I'll ask you all these questions.
I mean, you don't have to do all of them. You could pick
name coaches on current staff that you don't see at FSU in 2022.
Do you want me to answer that now?
No, I'm just saying these are I don't understand. So we're going to answer these, or are we not going to answer these?
Good morning, Dennis. Hello.
We're doing what we do to get ready for the podcast.
Sinone's trying to change the topic. He doesn't like this energy between you two.
I'm just asking.
I'm taking it in.
If I'm driving the boat today, or you can have the keys to it, and then you can weave in these questions as you see fit.
I mean, you can ask them. Doesn't mean we're gonna give great answers. On the bench.
Then why ask them?
That's our standard. Not great answers.
What's your shirt? What's on your shirt?
24/7.
Red and black.
It looks like an X. Like
it says 24/7, and then it. Sounds like a great idea, Brendan. Right. And then as I'm taking questions from the message board, we can take live questions from the thread at the same time.
Okay. That sounds good. Hang on, I'm just posting a story real quick on FSU's.
So I want you to answer the questions as they come at you.
Okay. All right.
Chris is loving this.
Hello. Oh, hey, Ash. How's it going? Jesus, scared me. My wife all of a sudden came inside the house, and I didn't expect anyone. I'm doing a podcast live. You want to come say hi to everyone? There's a yard guy out front, so I thought he came in the house, and I thought that was really messed up.
This makes for great TV.
Oh, you guys want to see my wife? She's beautiful.
This is all Brendan. I have no want or say so in doing these live events.
There's Mrs. Sinone, everyone.
Yeah, I had 2 cancellations, right. So.
Okay. All righty. Good. All right. Can you get Willie out of here, please? Thank you. This is great. Great television. How come we only have 15 people? How come we only have 15 people watching?
Because we cover an own 4 football team.
It's about to be 14 because I'm about to log out if we don't get started here.
All right, get going here. Let's get going.
Right.
And if Josh leaves, I'm leaving too.
Oh my God.
Then you guys are really stuck. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to On the Bench. I got Chris Nee and Brendan Sinone. We are back. It is Monday. Florida State is still 0-4. We've had a couple days to digest everything. So this is our regular Monday podcast. We're going to break it down But first, before we get in, welcome to the podcast, Brendan.
Yes. What?
And-
Hello.
Hello. Good morning, Chris. How you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm just here as an observer of you two, taking it all in, loving it, man. Great Monday.
Chris being in the best spot of all of us emotionally is deeply disturbing to me. I don't know how to process that. It's not good.
Well,
I'm
one
in a
of
great
us
spot
predicted
emotionally.
FSU to lose, and the other two were suckers.
Yeah, I'm mad at Josh for that. I thought I was going to be like the wild card and going out on a limb there, and Josh like undercut it there. And then we look like idiots because we went 1 for 2 as a website, which isn't great.
In our predictions. for the
Only
weekend.
one of us has to play the role of optimist each week. That's what it says in the contracts.
That's what I'm saying. I thought that was my turn. Josh saw it and he went and picked a record.
I got it out of
No,
Wake Forest.
You did.
It's now the baton's been handed off. You guys run with it.
You learned your
Yeah.
lesson.
I got influenced. I was, I do the podcast with Dylan Gibbons on Big Man, Big Heart every Thursday morning. And
Plug.
Dylan was confident. Like he sold me. He came close to guaranteeing a win. He felt confident that they were going to win. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to ride this into the weekend. They're going to win. Then I saw Brendan predicted it. I was like, oh, now we're going to lose.
Hey, Dylan played well. He carried his end of the bargain as best he could.
Okay, let's dive back into it because there were some questions that we had left unanswered when we did our instant reaction podcast. As you guys were literally leaving the stadium and walking to your cars, there was numerous times where we were getting into a topic and you said, "Well, I kind of want to watch it again," because you guys are in the press box. You don't even get really the privy of a lot of the instant replays as well. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball, and let's also start with you, Brendan. After the rewatch, after kind of just taking it all in, how have your thoughts changed or solidified on the offensive performance?
They have changed a little bit, and by that, what I'll say is, if I'm an FSU play caller, offensive coordinator, involved in any part of putting this game plan together, I don't know what to do. I don't know how you can consistently, methodically move the ball with this team, with the personnel as it's currently comprised. And I think that's kind of how I felt after Wake Forest game. But, the way they were kind of yo-yoing the quarterbacks back and forth, like, there was room to be critical of the personnel usage still. Against Louisville, I mean, they really simplified things, which is what we were clamoring for. They went out of a lot of like similar sets and just tried to have different built-in options and reads off of it. And it worked to an extent. But time and time again, FSU would hit a chunk play. They'd get going downfield, get tempo, which is something that Mike Norvell's offenses flourished at Memphis. Once they hit a big play, you're able to kind of build on it. And then FSU goes ahead and has a missed assignment or a penalty. The offensive line was just so very limited, especially in that first half. Mm-hmm. Robert Scott allowed 4 sacks, I think. And I'm not even trying to put this on Robert Scott. He
was back. Like we were excited that Robert Scott was back in the lineup because we haven't seen him since Notre Dame, right?
Well, the issue is he wasn't 100%. And yeah, you want him to be on the field, and that's your best option. The fact that he is your best option, I think, is more of an overarching issue of what FSU entered the season with, the lack of depth, and a hobbled Robert Scott was put in a position to where he wasn't able to succeed. Like the very first play from scrimmage, Josh, they run a little jet sweep that they're trying to set other stuff out of, and they've been practicing all week. And Robert Scott lets this guy get inside penetration, and it affects the play. Pokey Wilson gets pushed back into the backfield, which should be a 3 or 4 yard gain and sets up second and manageable, is a 1 yard loss. And you're now
and you can start running different things from that off of that play as well.
Which they do like to an extent later on. But yeah, it's just and that to me is a microcosm for where the offense is at. So people are being critical of the play calling and the personnel usage, and I think that exists. I mean, you're 0-4, so no one is blameless in this, right? But I'm posting a story right now on the passing offense and just how limited they are, Josh. Louisville basically sent 3 defensive linemen at FSU for almost the entire second half. Still managed to get 6 sacks on the day. FSU is one of the worst teams nationally in sacks allowed. They're one of the worst teams nationally in passing efficiency. And that all comes with teams. Rarely FSU is facing the blitz about, I think maybe like 19% of the time, and only like 10 or 11 teams are facing the blitz less often. So teams are able to get to the quarterback and disrupt the passing game in various ways without sending pressure. You can't win. You can't win when that's limitation.
You guys did not have a chance to watch the broadcast, did you?
I did on the rewatch.
When I watched the replay yesterday, I watched both the condensed and then I watched the lengthier version with some fast forward just to get through. But yeah, I heard a good bit of broadcast. You talking about Golick Jr.?
Golick Jr., I thought, was very good at not criticizing. I don't think he was overly critical, but he was very good at pointing out, like, oh, he went to the wrong double team, or this guy should have extended his man out rather than looking back inside. And almost every play, every time Florida State would get sacked, it wasn't like a man getting beat. It was, oh, Robert Scott should have slid inside instead of going outside, and his man beat him in. And he was doing a great job, I thought, of just kind of pointing out the missed assignments that we saw up front.
Yeah, since we're piling on Robert Scott, I'll throw Jordan Wilson into that. Jordan Wilson was horrible in this game.
He had a tough game.
I think he truthfully was the worst blocker among everybody on FSU's offense. That's what he's here for. The requirements he had in that game, and also for the fact that he was supposed to be helped to Darius Washington and Robert Scott, who were the next two bad blocking players for FSU in this game.
Speaking of Jordan Wilson,
yes,
if we're going to talk about Jordan Wilson and not blocking, what happened on the trick play?
I'm interested to ask if he's supposed to be looking to the sideline to sell it, because obviously the second that thing snapped, the guy's inside his left shoulder and barreling down right to where the back is supposed to go. So the play's kind of DOA because of that. So I'm presuming he's not supposed to be looking, or at least he's supposed to chip, get hands on there, redirect to some degree. He didn't do any of that. It was a clean release, go and have at it.
Rewatching that play, so they had two tight ends, one on each side in that pistol formation, and Jordan Wilson's looking to the sideline. Cam McDonald is too. Now, Cam is looking towards the play side and seeing the ball snapped, whereas Jordan Wilson has his back to the play. So Cam's able to react about a half second earlier and actually kind of get in and be part of the wedge. Jordan Wilson is not. So I really don't have a clear answer. Like at first I thought it was just Jordan Wilson kind of not being aware of the situation. Both tight ends looked to the sideline. So I don't know. Right. I really don't have a good answer for what happened there. And like Chris said, we'll hopefully get clarity on that today.
Okay.
Brendan, real quick, Josh, like I was just playing around with some numbers and being nerdy. We're trying to figure out like what the offense can be and just the limitations that they have. FSU's running game was good on Saturday at times. Like when it was good, it was really good. It was explosive. And I know fans are going to clamor, hey, just keep running the ball. Just keep running the ball. And that's fine. The issue is you're so heavily reliant on big plays, even just running the football. They can't consistently churn out 3-4 yards and maybe like 4 or 5 yards, just consistently move the ball. I think almost 45% of their production in the run game has come on just 9 plays. So that should speak to you just how much of what they're doing, 700 plus rushing yards this season, about 300 of it has come off of 20-yard plus chunk plays. They can't sustain or do anything. I don't know if that's coaching, play calling, personnel. I tend to think they're just really limited with personnel right now. Now it's on the coaches to get better.
We're going to talk a little bit of personnel after we review what Chris saw on the defensive side of the ball after a rewatch. So let's flip it over to you, Chris. Defensive rewatch, what did you learn?
Not really a whole lot new. They were pretty putrid in the first half. They started decently other than the bus play, but then they kind of wilted, and the second quarter was very poor. That 15-play drive for the touchdown where they had positive yardage on 14 of 15 with one incomplete pass, that was kind of a low point for that defensive performance. They bowed up in the second half much better, much more physical at the point of attack. The grand question since the game's been, did Louisville back off? I don't know that they backed off. I think they became a little more conservative, a little more clock manageable. They kind of lulled themselves to sleep to some degree, but FSU's defense also did play well. It can be both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. But FSU won at the point of attack in the second half, and that was the biggest difference. And that was a necessity for them. They had to be good at the point of attack because that's their strength. They don't have it in the second level and third level. Jarvis Brownlee, excellent tackles in space in the second half, big plays, helps to kill off 2 Louisville drives. I really thought Louisville's offense was quite putrid, both because FSU's defense was good and also their approach. After the 70-yard, I believe it was 70 yards up the sideline by Malik Cunningham that came back on the penalty, I kind of thought they got ultra conservative. If I'm Louisville, I just keep attacking the middle. They were having success, and I know FSU played better in the second half. But if you're going to run that amount of plays and be on the field for that amount of time, I think you just kind of beat them up and you're going to win in the end. Also, you're draining clock. I think, I don't know. I felt like they got away from who they were in the first half.
Yeah. And I think it's notable that Marcus Woodson was not available this weekend.
Yeah.
He was not on the sidelines.
So we saw Randy Shannon working with the DBs pregame to some degree, but that's not completely out of character to see other people working with segments. Did not realize that Marcus actually wasn't there. It was when I was speaking to Earl Little Jr. yesterday morning when he was exiting from his official visit that he mentioned. We expect him back. Sonone got some clarity from FSU on that subject.
Yeah,
it was a family matter.
Yeah, there was a family matter. He was at a funeral, and we'll leave it at that. So he could not be there this weekend.
Okay.
A little more on that. Hold on.
Go ahead.
As we've seen, if a coach goes down, another coach can come up in his place. We saw that last year with COVID a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So Randy had a headset. I confirmed that Randy Shannon did have a headset on this weekend. He won't, normally, and in a normal situation, he wouldn't have. It was just if you're going to elevate somebody from the staff, you're going to elevate Randy Shannon.
You're allowed to have 10 assistants.
As far as the defensive analysts go, he's been here the longest. He's the most experienced within Florida State scheme. So Randy Shannon, just to kind of stir the pot a little bit or add some flames to the fire, Randy Shannon did indeed have a headset on. I've been told, with certainty that there was nothing else to it. It was just, if we're going to elevate one coach from off the field, it's going to be Randy Shannon. But that is an interesting wrinkle, and Marcus Woodson will be back, and Randy Shannon will be back to off-field duties and not have a headset on the sidelines.
One overriding question was the defensive performance of the second half like a turning point, or what's the significance of it? I don't think we'll know till halftime of Syracuse, because I'm not betting on FSU's defense. What about you guys? You gonna feel confident? Oh yeah, they're here. They're here to play. No,
no.
FSU's 20-30 in their last 50 games, basically. Like, there's a reason for that, and a lot of it's the defensive side of the ball as well as the offensive side of the ball. So, no, I'm not buying into the whole turning point narrative and all that. I think Louisville didn't play a great second half. FSU played a much better second half. But man, football is a 60-minute game, so it's not about winning a half; it's about winning the damn game.
Yeah, and I got a little bit more scoop on that. Just a wild difference in performance from the first half to the second half, right? On defense.
Yeah.
I think it was 8 for 9 on third down out of the gate for them. They ended up finishing 9 for 18,
which is amazing that you had the defensive performance you had in the second half, where you were dominant on third down, and you still gave up 50% of third downs in a game, which is bad. That just shows how bad they were.
Some odd yards in the second half. You were on pace to give up 600 at halftime. You actually got off the field. Third down played a big role in that. 2 first downs allowed, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was night and day. So it's a good thing. Yeah, I think it shows them what they're capable of being.
Yeah, I think that's the upside. Like, if you do want to be you have to do it consistently, which has been an issue. But I think that's the upside, the silver lining, if you do want to be optimistic, is that the defense showed what it can be if everyone's dialed in. I mean, Jarvis Brownlee being a tone setter and attacking forward and making the plays that Chris alluded to big time, the defensive line, and even the backups like Quayshawn Fuller had a really nice second half. I thought Malcolm Ray did some good things in run stopping. Like, you showed, okay, like if you guys play with that level of intensity consistently, which we saw at times against Notre Dame and frankly hadn't seen since then until the second half against Louisville, that you can be an impactful defense. You can do things well. I don't think you're going to be a great defense. I think the secondary is still not really good at playing the football, and that's going to be a consistent problem until we see otherwise. But you see that you have something you can hang your hat on and do well and kind of have an identity. Now you have to go out and do it, like Chris said. And then that's the thing I think all three of us are extremely skeptical of right now.
Right. And I think coming out of the game, the big question is what happened? Like, what happened changed from the first half to the second half? What changed? What happened? There's been
they tackled better. Spacing was better, which was a big thing. Some of it is I think Louisville got a little hesitant to be as attacking as they were, especially in the third quarter. Louisville only threw it a handful of times in the third quarter. They ended up racking up, I think, 18 total passes in the second half. So they did get back to throwing it around a little bit, but they got a bit away from that. They had a great deal of success in the first half of basically throwing it at the sticks or throwing a lot of comeback stuff. And they were consistently winning those. They also got away with a pick play.
I got real quick because I know you got something that you got some scoop that you're building towards there, Josh. I would say schematically, and maybe you'll be able to clarify this for us. I don't think FSU did a ton differently in the second half. The attacking style of the defensive line, like they set the line of scrimmage better, and Louisville was less aggressive passing the ball, like Chris said. I know after the game, Jermaine Johnson said they cleaned up some things with the secondary, but I don't think they did a whole lot of wholesale adjustments to their scheme from what I could tell. But
probably helped that it got Sidney Williams back and Brendan Gant played less because
Brendan
Gant had a very costly penalty in the first half, and he also,
I believe,
in our estimation, somewhat blew the coverage on the first big chunk play that allowed the vertical chunk play.
I believe he was supposed to be a robber concept with him as a single high safety, and he bit on the play action is what I think happened. Can't be entirely sure, but yeah. And that allowed Jamie Robinson to move around a little bit more, which I think was one of the aspects of the second half that was noteworthy, was that Jamie Robinson was able to get involved a lot more as a run stopper, and you're able to kind of put him in the nickel, put him at buck safety, and move him around to different areas to attack. I think that was the big difference too.
Led FSU with, I believe it was 13 tackles. I think that's the most tackles since Hampson in 2019.
He had his best game
22
since he's been here.
So yeah, I talked to a source on the defensive side of the ball and was told absolutely nothing changed schematically. Nothing. I said, did personnel change? He said no. I said, what happened? He goes, Josh, college football is a crazy game. Momentum is a real thing. I said, but what happened? He goes, the offense went out and scored. He goes, the offense went out and scored. For some reason, that got the sideline excited. Defense goes out on the field. Keir Thomas nearly has a pick. The sideline goes crazy again. And he said from there, it was like we had a different team on the sidelines. Like the guys were just into it all of a sudden. There was absolutely no schematic change. They said, the first play was the first touchdown was just a breakdown in the guys knowing what to do on the back end. Play call they didn't get out schemed. Guys just didn't do their job on the back end, and it looks like an easy touchdown. It was an easy touchdown. But I also asked if there was a different play caller. There was no different play caller, but Randy Shannon did have a headset on. That's how I learned that. But no, it was just one of these things where the defense just got it together and they started playing better. And that is it leaves some room for optimism because you know that they have it in them, but it also is so frustrating that they just can't go out and play like that normally. Yeah. Missed assignments,
that's a team-wide issue. FSU can't start a game well if their life depends on it right now. They've just not been good at it, which is a little nuts because last year they were actually pretty effective on the script out of the gate offensively, Correct. And they just have not been this year.
I think that them consistently come out like that, that falls back on the coaches.
I think so. I mean, it's cultural with players too, but yeah, if it happens all the time, then coaching has to be in question. Yeah,
I think the offensive statement at the end of the half of trying to push the ball downfield, trying to make things happen, scoring quickly. I think that was a positive because you went in the locker room feeling a little better about yourself than what you were for about 26 minutes of that half. So I think that helped. I think that allowed them to come out in the second half. And obviously, Jay Sean busting off a 75-yard run where he makes a great move on the rear end of Dylan Gibbons, makes somebody miss, and he goes. That's an injection in the arm. I think that certainly helped. Somebody pointed that out in the comment section, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. But, it shouldn't take that. At some point, right. FSU has to put the onus upon themselves. If we're trying to win football games, we have to play better from the get-go.
Or maybe the defense is the one that sets the tone. Why can't they just get out there? Why do they have to react to the offense?
Out of the gate?
And, we said that when it happens systemically, it falls on the coaches to ultimately fix it. But I will say this, too. This isn't a issue that's only been with a Mike Norvell coach Florida State team. It wasn't only an issue that was with a Willie Taggart coach Florida State team. This is something that goes back to 2014 FSU with the slow starts and just not really being able to figure out why. So, I mean, at a certain point, I think you guys both touched on it. It does come down to pride as players and being able to kind of to get yourself up for a game. Now, coaches have to find confidence, have to get guys in the right spot. That's all part of it. But we saw Jarvis Brownlee in the middle of the game get his confidence back, and he had lost it. He didn't seem like someone who was playing with a ton of confidence since the Jacksonville State game. And for him to come up and kind of manifest that and generate himself, like that's what's encouraging. But you have to find at this level of competition, you have to find a way to dial that up yourself. You can't wait for stuff to happen. And that's what the good teams do. They come out and take care of business, play fast, play physical right off the bat. FSU isn't a good team. They can't do that right now. Maybe they figure it out. I don't know, but that's what's needed.
Yeah. So before we move on, I just want to reiterate that Randy Shannon was not calling plays, regardless of what you read on various message boards. If that does change, I will be sure to let you know. But for now, the defense is just we don't know which defense is going to arrive. Hopefully it's the one that we saw in the second half against Louisville, shows up in the first half against Syracuse. Let's move on to another situation, the one in the backfield, the quarterback situation. Give us an update on Monday where things stand with Jordan Travis.
So Jordan Travis did not practice much at all last week. And the thing that I think a lot of people, when they actually saw it, and it's something that we're asked to not report on during the week to not give FSU a competitive disadvantage, but when people saw on the sideline that Jordan Travis was not participating a ton during warmups, I don't think that was a surprise. What was a surprise to the fan base was that he had a big old knee brace on the right knee and was moving pretty gingerly. That was the case all this past week. When we saw him against Wake Forest come out of the game, he kind of had his shoulder hanging. You figure it's a shoulder issue. Well, it turns out it's a knee issue as well, which for that dude and the way he plays quarterback and the way he has to play it to be successful, having a limitation lower body with leg is a toughie. So, yeah, I thought that it was extremely unlikely we would see him this past week. I think it moves to probably being unlikely we see him this week. I think based on just the way he was moving, I'd be surprised if we saw Jordan Travis until after the bye week coming up in a couple weeks.
He officially unavailable on Saturday too. Just to clarify that. It wasn't a matter of he sat because of injury. He was officially unavailable.
Gotcha. Okay. So, Chris, what does that leave us with QB depth? And I guess the obvious question is, do we see Chubba Purdy at any time soon?
Everybody wants Chubba. I mean, Chubba's the second man up. He would have been the next man in this past week. I think it's, partly indicative of where they think Chubba stands at this time. The fact that we did not see him at all on Saturday, especially when the offense was completely bogged down at times during the first half. Someone asked, hey, it's all good. Buyer Sonone Chubba starts the Syracuse game. Sonone, I don't expect this. I don't think they want to force Chubba into duty. I think they would love to play him, sprinkle him in, give him a little opportunity here and there, possibly. But this isn't we're trying to move on youth movement idea. That's not going to happen. I understand
also,
that people were like,
to an extent, though, isn't this the quarterback play has not been great for Florida State on the field. So isn't this also a bit of an indictment on Chubba Purdy and at least what the coaching staff thinks of him? It's clear that the coaching staff doesn't think he's better than their other
guy who had a completely limited first year, who was banged up, playing on a team that has a crap offensive line, if we're just being honest.
I think if he was a baller and he could do it and get it done and the staff believed in him, I don't think they would have any problem putting him out there.
There's a whole lot of space between bad and baller.
It's both.
Yes.
It's both. And
I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying based on what we've seen, I think you can gather what the staff thinks about him.
They don't think he's ready is what they're telling you. They don't think he's ready for the situation he would step into, which is, as Chris said, an offensive line. We just documented it. They're allowing the fifth most amount of sacks in the country.
So
of any
all I'm saying is
team.
let's not just act like Chubba's not getting in because he's inexperienced. They just If AJ Duffy comes in and is half of what they think he is, he's going to start next year.
And part of the way Chubba plays, when you see it in practice, his inexperience shows up. That is part of it, is that he makes a lot of mistakes. He makes a lot of good plays.
We're not seeing Chubba Purdy, though. I just want to be clear.
Now, there is
that's why we're not seeing him.
Yeah, we're not seeing him because he's not ready. In their estimation, he's not ready to play. There would be catastrophic mistakes that would come along with some potential good plays too. And maybe we get to the point in the season where you say, that's fine. We need to take our risks and see what he's got and let him figure it out.
And maybe Chuba takes that opportunity and
And
proves everybody wrong.
Like,
Right, that's possible.
2 games ago. Chuba should have played at the end of the
Wake Forest game. I agree.
He should have played the last series or the 2 last series.
But that also tells me that they really don't have, like, he's not that close. If he was close to seeing the field, I think he maybe does get that opportunity to finish that game. But I just think that the staff is not in a situation where they're going to put him on the field anytime soon.
AJ, so we got a question here from Brett McKinley asking, some have said AJ Duffy is higher than Sam Howell was out of high school. Where does Chuba compare to high school Sam Howell and AJ Duffy? We're just talking about recruiting rankings. I think Duffy and Sam Howell were like 97s. And,
I don't remember.
And I'm pulling it up. I think Chuba was more of a 92. So he was a lower.
Personal opinion for me, it would be Howell, Duffy, Purdy in that order for those 3.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Okay. So quarterback personnel, wrap it up. Do we see Chuba Purdy take meaningful reps outside of an injury occurring to somebody?
I don't think so.
When, this week?
Yeah, this week, next week, just in the short term. Yeah.
I mean, I think eventually we'll see at a point where Chuba Purdy's playing some snaps of significance. I don't know about starting, but rotating in. I don't think so this week. Right now, I don't think so.
Part of this discussion is Milton's a rhythm quarterback, pretty well established at this point. I think they, to some degree, don't want to disrupt that if they don't believe that the option 2 is truly going to help them in a significant manner. Jordan Travis and him and Milton are different, which is why they kind of played them off of each other. While Purdy is capable of scrambling and certainly more athletically gifted at this point in his career than Mackenzie Milton, I don't think they want to go that direction right now.
Understandable. Any other personnel changes that we see between last week and this week that you think are significant?
I mean, I could see Jordan Wilson being knocked down a notch. That was a really, really bad performance for him. He's supposed to be an extra blocker, and he didn't get it done. Preston Daniel, though, has a bad wheel right now, and probably your next guy up as far as a blocking type is Jackson West, and that's a true freshman, so that's asking a lot. Receivers, they can't win one-on-ones. It's an ongoing issue. They tried to force feed Andrew Parchment 11 targets for 5 catches this past weekend, but he does a really poor job on that last play of fighting for the ball against Keitrell Clark. And he owned that to his credit in the postgame. He spoke on it. You know, he understands that that's why he was brought in here. So it's not like they got an option to go to, but that's an ongoing issue for this offense. It's an offense somewhat built on needing to win one-on-ones, and they've never been able to in the Mike Norvell era.
That's a good point, Chris. And that's 2 points I want to make real quick, Josh. We can move off the Louisville game, but one was when talking about the offense, I forgot to mention earlier. I thought the staff did a good job getting wide receivers in some one-on-ones when Louisville wasn't dropping 8, and when you're dropping 8, like you're not going to get open typically. This offense has been so hampered, not just this year, but in 2 years, with the inability to have wide receivers win one-on-one battles outside. And that puts a lot of pressure on the play callers to scheme up 1-on-0s to try to get guys wide ass open. And that just, you can do that a couple times a game. And they almost dialed one up to Cam McDonald. They'd set up this play where they had this offset formation with trips, and then you have the tight end on the short side of the field, and they run a little jet motion off of it. And that had worked. They had set up a long run. Trayshawn Ward's 20-yard touchdown run was off of that. And they set this up. And they almost get Cam McDonald schemed wide open, but the cornerback is going in to stop the run and sees Cam at the very last second, is able to peel off. McKenzie just kind of lobs it up there, thinking it's going to be a 1-on-0. Turns out it's a 1-on-1. If McKenzie actually steps up and throws it outside, maybe Cam has a chance for like a 15-yard gain. But they were dialing it up to be a 50-yard gain, to be a touchdown. And it just didn't happen. And that's going to happen throughout the course of the game. That's why you need playmakers to win one-on-ones outside. You know, people were asking why FSU went 4 verts with about a minute left in the play that ends up leading to the interception that ends the game, because you need to take your shots at some point, right? Mm-hmm. And you set up a one-on-one with Andrew Parchment outside, and that as a player, like, that's what you want. Give me a chance to win a one-on-one. That's what you're coming to Florida
State to do,
right? And so again, there's this frustration with the coaches and the play calling, and I get it. It exists. There's room for criticism. But right now they don't have guys who are winning one-on-ones, and that makes it awfully difficult. And that's with the offensive line too.
FSU ending up in that late game shot situation in part is because of the sack that Milton takes. That causes a claw crunch situation where they're a little bit more in a rush than they might be if they had an
can't
additional
take a sack there.
Right.
Cannot.
So time to get one of those things where a lot of time a miscue is preceded by something else that was a miscue that put you in a negative situation where you had to make up for it. One other thing I'd bring up from the Louisville game we talked about in the post game deal that we did was special teams has to be more of an asset. It has to be more of a strain. Keyshawn Helton has to be better on punt returns in the sense of not being a negative in punt returns. They have to get something out of kicking game in the sense of being more consistent. You got to make extra points.
Kickoff return too needs to be like that. Hasn't been an asset for them. Louisville was better at kickoff returns than FSU was. The amount of time that they invest into it, it has to be better.
Field position situations need to improve.
So real quick, Michael says no reason to throw the ball. That was the McKenzie throw to Andrew Parchment. Like, I think the thing that people are missing is you're not methodically moving the ball down the field against 8 defenders in coverage. Like, you're just not going to. You have to take your shot, and they had a chance to win a one-on-one outside. That's ultimately what you want.
It's a one-on-one with a Louisville DB on a Florida State wide receiver.
That's the play Clark that you
want. Pretty damn good, though. I did not completely understand why they kept throwing at Keitrell Clark down the stretch. Maybe it's because they felt like they were getting that one-on-one.
They were getting one-on-ones with it. Yep, that's exactly what was happening.
He's arguably the best player on Louisville's defense.
He's an all ACC caliber cornerback.
But Zero is pretty dang good as well. Yaya Diaby has pretty high upside. Monty Montgomery, who's hurt and done for the year, is also in that discussion.
The only other point I want to make and think of big picture is like we talked about youth movement and trying to get younger guys onto the field. And I think that you're going to have to see that periodically throughout the season and guys provide competition, but understand the double-edged sword that comes with that. Amorian Cooper gets extensive run on a series. He's picked on one play on a slant pattern. Brendan Gant comes up, jars the ball loose, but Amorian Cooper gives up inside leverage, works out fine. A couple plays later, he's one-on-one and gives up a touchdown. And that's going to be, and that's not a knock on, it's a true freshman who, right now you're at FSU, you're not recruiting elite players. You're recruiting top 200 level cornerbacks, not top 50 level cornerbacks in the national rankings. And that's, although Demore Tate isn't playing a ton. But my point being is that you have true freshmen that you're throwing in there. And I think you're going to continue to see that throughout the course of the season. But they're not necessarily elevating the level of talent. Maybe you're elevating the level of effort and of grittiness, and that's ultimately where you're trying to get this program right now. But there's not a quick fix, shot in the arm injection of talent. Guys, I don't see that coming.
Okay. Well, speaking of a potential injection of talent, let's talk about recruiting now. Florida State hosted 2 official visitors over the weekend. 2 really good football players. First, we'll talk about American Heritage cornerback Earl Little Jr. He is ranked the number 100 player in America and number 12 corner overall. He arrived, I think, on Thursday night, started his visit on Friday. Chris, you had a chance to speak with Earl Little Jr., who's kind of been on campus a couple times. He's not a regular, but he's a guy that we've interviewed before on campus. So what did he have to say after his official visit?
He spent a lot of time here in the summer. Him and his dad came in, spent like 2.5, 3 days here, and truly took it in, did a lot. His dad was with him again on this visit. Excuse me. His dad's a former college player, NFL player, well-versed guy, football guy through and through, very serious man. Earl Jr. is also a pretty serious kid for his age. He's taking it in. He enjoyed himself. He said he largely just watched the defensive backs in the game. He didn't really mince words about how they performed. I mean, he took it in. He saw what everybody else saw, miscommunication, major issues they had at times, all that concerning stuff. He knows that there's early PT available here. He knows that he could make an impact in that secondary and probably out of the gate do so. He's a pretty mature player, mature kid, mature individual who has a shot. The only issue with the early PT situation for him is he's not an early enrollee because American Heritage, it's not something they can do. But all this being said, FSU's in it. He legitimately has interest. Coaching staff, even though Coach Woodson wasn't here this week, and Coach Woodson's done a good job with him, as has Mike Norvell. Ryan Bartow has also helped a great deal down there in American Heritage. He's got a good relationship with the father as well. But I don't think it matters in the end. I expect the young man to go to Alabama. The other contenders are Alabama, LSU, Oregon, and USC, I believe it was for him. He's been to USC already for an official. He could actually go back because of Clay Helton dismissal for another one. That's an NCAA rule that allows that. He has plans to see the other 3 coming up here soon. But everybody expects him at Alabama. I think it's going to be pretty tough to beat out the Crimson Tide for anybody. And that's been true for months on end.
It's a scenario where if for some reason Alabama fills up and doesn't have a need for Earl Little Jr. anymore, then I think FSU is in a good spot. But barring that, I'm really not giving this recruitment a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
FSU's losing to Alabama. That's how far the program's coming with recruiting.
Yeah, that's been pretty consistent over the last 5 or 6 years.
Everybody loses to Alabama, though, except for Georgia.
Except for Jimbo.
I'd rather lose to Alabama
Georgia,
than to someone
A&M,
else.
Clemson, Ohio State. Anybody else contending with Alabama for kids consistently?
I mean, there was a period of time where Florida State was going into Hueytown, Alabama, and taking the #1 quarterback in America right out from under Nick Saban. There was a time when Florida State was doing that.
To quote my 8-year-old when I start talking about things from like 8 years ago, back in my day. That's Josh right now.
Carson troll you. I like it.
He does.
Hey, remember Chris Casher? We landed him too. No, I'm just kidding.
Mobile,
and
Faith Academy, right?
Justin Shanks. Don't forget Justin Shanks.
No, those were not Alabama takes.
Oh.
But all right, let's talk about the other linebacker, the other visitor that was in town, and that was the one and only Wesley Besaint. Besaint comes from Miami Central High School. He's a 4-star outside linebacker, goes about 6'1", 200 pounds, speedy guy. He is ranked the number 173rd best player overall and the 20th ranked linebacker in the country. Wesley Besaint is really a battle between Miami and Florida State for most of the summer, but I've been hearing rumors that West Virginia is a real player in this. Chris, what did Wesley say after his visit?
Well, you mentioned 3 of the schools. Penn State's also in there. He's already been on an official there. This was his 4th official. He's seen all 4 of those schools we mentioned. He intends to see Florida next month and decide closer to Thanksgiving. Florida is a little bit more of a recent addition. They were part of the top 5 you put out in recent weeks. They've done a good job of kind of putting themselves in the mix, but I agree with you. I think it's an FSU Miami deal, and West Virginia would be number 3 right now if I had to pick a school. We'll see how Florida plays out. As far as Wesley's official here, again, another young man that came in. He came in late June with his mom, spent a majority of a day here. A lot of time with Sabbath Joseph, who's got ties to Miami Central, Chris Merv, obviously Mike Norvell. Norvell is very hands-on with both of the official visitors this weekend. He has been throughout their recruitment. With Wesley's case, he watching the game was kind of the opposite of Earl. Earl was watching his position, only his position largely. Wesley more just watched a game to watch a game. He was hosted by Emmett Rice, who's also from Miami, so that helps. And Emmett also helped with hosting Earl Little. Wesley's a kid that...
You got to mention Sabbath Joseph in this one as well.
Yeah, Sabbath Joseph, Chris Merv, Mike Norvell. Those are the big 3.
Sab knew him from Miami Central High School.
He likes Sab and he trusts Sab. And Sab to him in some ways is viewed as family. And I thought the most significant thing Wesley said to me in a pretty vanilla interview overall was that FSU feels like family. They treat guys like family, and he certainly feels like he's already part of that family. So I thought that's a positive that he's taken away from both of them. He came in with his mom. She was also with him in the summer. They've done a good job there. They've positioned themselves. That's one of those where it comes down to, does he want to join a team that's not very good, where there's early PT at a position? And he's very, very talented and a guy that FSU could desperately use at the linebacker position because he brings an injection of athleticism, but he's also physical. Or does he, lean on staying home or choose to kind of blaze his own path and go elsewhere?
Well, the way I see it is, I think heading into the season, I felt very good that Miami was out in front of Florida State. And I felt like Florida State has a shot here if they can come out and prove themselves on the field and then host them on the official and everything goes well. I think Florida State could get back in the lead for this recruitment, but I felt Miami had the lead. Well, heading into the season, I wouldn't say much of that has changed, but you have a situation where neither Florida State or Miami, neither of them can get out of their own way right now.
Yeah.
And I'm being told that West Virginia is more of a threat. Travis Trickett is leading up that recruitment. I'm not making this up. But Travis Trickett, he recruits Miami for West Virginia. He's involved down there. He's doing a really good job. And is this a scenario where Florida State and Miami are just bumbling idiots and they lose Wesley Bissainthe to West Virginia? I think West Virginia is more of a threat than Penn State.
I'd agree with that. And I'm interested to see if Florida can make a move. If it comes down to a distance thing where he's going to stay in state, Florida's got a bit of a shot there, especially if they get him in. I don't know which game they're looking for, but if they make a strong impression, it would be interesting to see.
They could be a dark horse.
They've kind of been the one that's come along late, but, he reminds me in some ways of Ventrell Miller. I don't know why that is, but he does when I watch him. Obviously had a good career at Florida, so,
Okay. And that's it. That was it for official visitors. Anybody of substance come in unofficially?
Well, there were 2 hoops official visitors. I got to get in there because, as Simone likes to say, Chris Nee loves hoops. Tom House came in, talented wing. He's more of a shooter type. He had a good time. It's an FSU Georgia battle with him. I wouldn't be shocked if a decision happens sooner rather than later, but it will definitely happen during the early signing period, which starts in November. And then Deontay Green, talented forward from North Carolina, same high school, I believe, as Caleb Mills, current Seminole basketball player. He came in. I think he's going to end up at NC State, but FSU swung their, they made their effort there. They've tried to put themselves in it. Steve Smith's leading the charge with Green. Stan Jones really leading the charge with House. But, Hamilton's kind of one of those guys where the whole staff recruits, and Leonard's certainly involved with both. So that's going on with that. There were unofficial visitors for football. Trying to think. I saw Thomas Castellanos on the sideline. Found that interesting.
Former
beat a Jordan Travis type quarterback for FSU.
A quarterback who wants to play athlete, right?
Yeah.
No, an
athlete who wants to play quarterback.
Correct. Right, but FSU wants him as an athlete.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. But, you lose a few more games and you might not be so picky.
Where he's
we
committed?
just watch you. Trying to think who else. There were a couple 23 kids. Jalen, the running back from, I think it's Appleton County up there in Georgia. He was I did not actually lay eyes on him. And then Jaden, the defensive tackle. What's Jaden's last name? Johnson or Jackson? Jackson. He was in. The young man that you've dealt with some, Josh, whose dad has hit you up too. No, J-Rod, I didn't say that Caleb Mills is transferring out. I was saying that he's a current FSU player who's from the same high school as Deontay Green.
We thought you were firing somebody.
No. I love me some Caleb Mills. Mills probably could win a one-on-one on the football field better than most of FSU's wide receivers.
Do we have any expectations of officials this week? I do not believe so, right? Syracuse coming to town?
Football-wise, nothing on the docket as of right now. I do expect one hoops player, 2023 kid, to come in. I'll have more on that later in the week.
Okay. Brendan, is there anything that you want to get off your chest before we get out of here?
Nope. We got questions, but you don't want to read them, so.
Oh, okay. This is all right. Your time to shine. All right. What FSU coaches are going to be fired after the season?
I don't know if anyone's
hold on. And Brendan put a post up on the Noles247 message board asking for questions.
You're welcome.
I think they're all pretty bad questions, but we're just going to let Brendan go rapid fire here. So name coaches on the current staff that you don't see at FSU in 2022.
I'd be surprised if the entire defensive coaching staff is back next year.
All right. Do you think Norvell can turn this thing around?
I think he can. Will he? I'm not confident on that right now.
If you were Mike Norvell, would you grant the press the same access that Norvell gives you, more or less?
Yes.
Put a line on every remaining game this season.
Syracuse giving 3. Florida State giving 3. North Carolina is going to be favored by 6. UMass, FSU is going to be a 3-point favorite. How about that? I'll just give you the next 3.
He asked for every remaining game, but okay.
I don't remember who else.
Does FSU get more than one win this season?
Yes.
Is Purdy that bad, or does he just not ready yet due to limited reps?
Go back and listen to about 20 minutes ago.
Do you think Randy Shannon had a hand in play calling?
I mean, he had a hand in coaching the game.
Yeah, he was not calling games.
I think
More likely outcome: FSU wins the next 3 games versus UNC, Syracuse, and UMass, or FSU loses the next 3 games.
Oh, that's a good question. I think more likely lose those 3 than win those 3. Just based on current, FSU hasn't won a game yet this season, so I'm just going with what I currently see.
All right.
Big game,
Thank you
Bob.
for,
Bobby Buckets chiming in here. First time, long time. Jumped in late. Did I miss the special teams breakdown?
You did.
Yes, Bob. Your special teams have been a miserable disappointment. I blame it all upon you.
We did have a special teams segment, and Bob was absent for it. That is too bad. He's going to have to go watch it on the rewatch. All right. Well, that's it. I think that's it.
When Bob watches special teams during practice, he's holding the railing and getting white knuckled. It's wild to watch.
I do. I picture Bob in the press box on Saturdays, just like pulling out his hair and being. I guess we just look over at Bob. He's only like a few rows down from us.
What's more of what gets Bob going more? The fielding the punt inside the 5 or not fielding the punt and having it roll 72 yards?
Oh,
Like
wow.
which is
I think the roll one, but let's see. I'm gonna guess Bob. The roll one is what got him.
Yeah, I think it's the roll one. He basically took his computer, threw it down, and walked out.
I'll say after doing the rewatch yesterday, that was probably the most extensive rewatch I've done of a game this year. There were points where I was just getting legitimately mad at the players. Like as a coach, like I don't know what you do. Like guys double teaming the wrong. I don't know. I would be furious if I was dialing up some of the offensive schemes and the team executed the way it did. Bob said both.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to On the Bench. Chris and Brendan will be back on Thursday for your preview against Louisville.
Syracuse.
Oh my God.
Syracuse. We just talked about Louisville for an hour.
Watch me edit that, though, and you will have no idea.
The world saw live TV.
They will be back for their preview on Syracuse.
A lot of people asking what's in the cup. Tea.
What kind of tea?
Mate. I'm an Argentinian.
Is that what's with the green tea? Like what's
it's like a mate. It's like a green tea.
Is that the healthy stuff? Mate?
I don't know. I'm not drinking coffee. I'm 4 days off coffee. So this is like my new thing.
Iced coffee.
Josh is like the kind of person like me when I'm like, oh, I'm not drinking anymore. It just means I hadn't drank like in 3 days. Like
it's
3
because
days.
I go too hard. Like I find things that I like, and then I just go way too hard to the point where they don't serve me right anymore. Like I drink so much coffee that my stomach's all messed up. Everything that that's just how my life is.
Josh is a man of extremes.
Would you not vouch for that?
No, I mean,
no, I was talking to Alice.
He's talking to the woman in his life.
I legit thought my wife was a burglar for like 5 seconds. Like
it's really not about extremes. I just like to max things
throw
out.
on that tank top and go just throw down. He was ready for it.
I almost did the pod in the tank top today.
You gonna mess with a man wearing a Jaws tank top?
It was Jurassic Park this morning.
Okay.
I'm tired. Hey,
did you like that Q&A at the end?
Yeah, I think you served your point there. Guys, there's always bourbon. Later tonight.
Discussion of the Q&A more.
All right, what should I call this pod?
Definitely
not losing hope.
Not losing hope.
Let's not go with that title again, okay, everybody? Let's not do that.
That was you know what? I questioned myself. Like, was that the right
title?
title? And I thought, you know what? No, in that moment, like, no, that's how I felt. Like that title was my emotions.
I just don't think it indicated what we discussed.
Josh, I'm not losing hope. If you have no hope to lose,
but in the instant reaction, we are like. I thought this.
My main feeling in the instant reaction was at halftime, I was ready to help Adam Fuller pack his bags. That was my main feeling in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what should I call this one then? Rainbows and sunshine and ice cream?
Regaining hope.
For nothing else, I'm looking forward to the discussion of the title of the pod.
All right. Puppy dogs, ice cream, and rainbows coming to you. OTB.
That'd actually be a pretty good one. Do that. People will click on it.
Okay. All right.
Bye.